I'd like to know your backstory of what your life was like before joining the real world.
That's a good question. I joined the real world like a year ago, almost to the T, like a year ago. Before then, I was studying uh, business management here in Antwerp, in Belgium. And actually, I have been studying that for like, let's say 3 years or something. I started university. Didn't think that was it, right? Because I always wanted to make money on my own. That was always the goal. I just thought at that point, university is the solution for me. Like, university is going to give me the skills, the knowledge to make that money. That's what I believed back then. Then university wasn't it. So I went to like college, as you would call it, and it was all right. Like the first year, I learned some things, some practical stuff. But man, in the second year and the third year, you start to feel like I started to notice like this is useless. I just felt like I wasn't learning anything, um, which was weird because I thought like the knowledge was gonna go get better and better the longer you, or like the more you approach the end of your, let's say, study. That wasn't the case, and then COVID hit. That's when like the entrepreneurial journey started for me personally. But I didn't start with what I do now back then. Back then it was private labeling and e-commerce. So I started in e-commerce, like you have this kind of platform called bol.com here in Belgium. That's basically like Amazon, but a little bit smaller scale, a little bit more local, but it's still pretty big here. So I started doing that. And yeah, that actually, it went well in a sense, but now I realize all the lessons that they failed to teach in that community where I was in then. And maybe like a lot of people that are doing e-commerce could relate to this, but like profit and turnover are not the same thing. So I was, I think 18 or 19 back then, and I turned over 35K, which is pretty cool, like at 18, but I made an 8K loss. So I basically lost all the savings that I had that I used to start that business. So, yeah, so that was interesting. I was actually trying to come up with a new plan for e-commerce, for a new business. That was before I joined the real world, which was then Hustlers University. But it's funny how all these things went. Then at the same time, like simultaneously, I was just watching podcasts, watching YouTube stuff, and I became familiar with Tate, with Andrew Tate, slowly. And back then, I didn't know anything about Hutch University. I was just doing my thing, doing studies, trying to make a business plan for this grand new e-commerce thing that was going to save my life. And yeah, then I just came across a YouTube community post of Andrew Tate. And I back then I didn't know anything about Hutch University at all. So it was just basically, I don't remember what the angle exactly was, but I felt the urgency. And I was astonished. Like it was only $50. So I was 50, like it felt weird to me. It felt really weird. So I just joined without thinking. And I thought I'll figure it out. So I joined, and I didn't really think about it very much. I just did what I had to do. So I got into Hustlers University back then, which was only, I think, 6K members at that point. And you had to choose your skill based on like how time rich you are and how money rich you are. Back then, I was basically time rich, but I was money poor. So I got assigned to copywriting. And back then it was only just like a couple videos and posts in like a tutorial channel. So it's completely different from what it's now. And I just started going through the motions, started taking action, but I didn't take it that seriously yet. It was just like, okay, I'll see what it does, right? I just kept going, and then and this is like a common theme with a lot of guys, is when you get your first sales calls, right? And I didn't close, I think, until the fifth one or fourth one or something. But it was very weird to me. It was so weird because I remember having that first sales call that I closed and I actually made money. And that's when I realized, like, I just felt weird. Like, you make money from thin air, basically. And at that point, I started taking it way more seriously. And I basically started investing all my time into this. And that was like, I think 3 months in, something like that. Something like that, yeah. And then I just started investing all my time into it. And it just snowballed, man. It just snowballed. Started growing slowly, just started growing. Eventually, I just noticed how it just keeps compounding, and until the point I am now, where I actually eventually I just quit college altogether. I always wanted to quit, right? I always wanted to quit. I just thought e-commerce would be the way for me, but it wasn't. And now I realize, like, how important it is to have a skill instead of a business first, which like HU is like perfect for, right? So yeah, that's basically how I came to where I am now. So now I've quit college and I'm basically doing this full time. And yeah, it's pretty weird because I was like in what you would call dorms, I believe, for people in college. So I moved back home to focus on this, and now I'm like leaving to Thailand for in 2 weeks for to live there. So basically, I went from like a college student, didn't make any money at all, and now like 1 year later, and I'm like completely, like, I make my own money. Like, I'm completely location independent, which is maybe the most amazing thing ever. Like, I can be wherever I want, and I like literally like in 2 weeks I'm moving to Thailand.